Hi guys, welcome to the second webcast of the week. Today we're going to begin talking about joints, and we'll finish up talking about them in the first webcast of next week. To start off, there's going to be three types of joints when classified by structure. Three types by structure. And those types are fibrous, synovial, and cartilaginous joints. These are going to be how joints are defined by structure. There's also another way of defining joints, and that's going to be by movement. So three types, three descriptions by movement allowed. And that's going to be synarthrotic, amphiarthrotic, hope I spelled that right, and diarthrotic. These are going to be three types of motion, three classifications of joints by the motion they allow. And I've colored them red, yellow, and green like a stoplight. So a synarthrotic joint, syn, together, this is where two bones come together and there's no motion. Red light, no motion there. No movement allowed. These are going to be fused bones. The next one, amphiarthrotic, I've colored yellow because it allows some movement. It's more or less held still, but there's going to be some movement allowed. And then diarthrotic I've colored green because this is going to be a full motion joint. This is going to be a joint like your knee or your shoulder or your elbow. A lot of motion there. So red for synarthrotic, yellow for amphiarthrotic, green for diarthrotic. And that might help you remember. Today we're only going to focus on fibrous joints and cartilaginous joints. And we're going to talk about synovial joints for the entire next webcast. So 1, fibrous joints. For the most part, these are going to be mostly synarthrotic. There's going to be some amphiarthrotic examples, but there's going to be very little motion allowed even in those examples. So put that, some amphiarthrotic, however. Some amphiarthrotic as well. And I'm just going to give you an example because I think that's the best way to describe it. And that's going to be the sutures of your skull. The sutures of the skull. So you can imagine looking down from a superior view, looking inferiorly. So if you're looking down on the skull, you've got sutures that bring these flat bones of the skull together, right? And these sutures are fusing these bones together. There's not supposed to be any motion between those bones. And so that's the best example I can give you of a fibrous joint. And there's going to be no joint cavity. No joint cavity here. So there's not going to be something like your knee. You can think of your knee as being there's a space in there, or in your shoulder, or in your elbow. Those are areas that you're describing a joint. There's no joint cavity for these sutures in this fibrous joint. And that's all I'm going to talk about with that. There's different types of fibrous joints, and you can find those in your book. The next one, let's see how much I can keep on the page here. It's going to be, did I use orange? Yes. Cartilaginous joints. Cartilaginous. And these joints are going to be Mostly amphiarthrotic. Mostly amphiarthrotic. However, there are some that are considered synarthrotic, I believe. For most part, those are amphiarthrotic. And a good example, and also there's going to be no joint cavity in here. Let me put that out here as well. Orange. No joint cavity. No joint cavity. So again, this is a joint that you don't think of as your standard example joint like a knee or an elbow or a shoulder. Those are synovial joints, and those are what we're going to be talking about next time. But a good example of a cartilaginous joint would be between your vertebrae. Between your vertebrae. So I'm just going to draw the body of the vertebrae here. Let's see if I can do this. This is going to be anterior. So you'll have a arc coming around here and a spinous process. I'm not even going to pretend that looks good. I'm not going to take that on there. So here we have an example. Example are vertebrae. You have two vertebrae stacked on top of each other here. Posterior. And these vertebrae aren't touching, right? You can imagine how painful that would be if you had bones grinding all the time. But there's no real motion. There's some flexibility allowed there. But you're not moving it like a shoulder. And inside there is going to be hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage. It's going to, that are part of your intervertebral discs. And these allow you to have some flexibility there and absorb some compression without grinding your bones together, but it really doesn't give you a whole lot of flexibility. So this hyaline cartilage is what's referred to as a symphysis. A symphysis. That's spelled it. And you can see how that fits the idea of amphiarthrotic somewhat. There's some motion allowed, but not a whole lot. And again, has no joint cavity. That's where we're going to end this webcast. It was pretty informal today. And so we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.